you ready for sustainable tire production? Difficult times require an analysis of processes and consequently a development of new strategies, so you can get back into action. HF, sent for future demands in tire production. Join us for I-TEC 2020 Virtual Edition on September 10th, 12 p.m.
Hi everybody, I'm Brennan Lafferty, publisher of Rubber and Plastics News. Rubber and Plastics News is your organizer of I-TEC, the International Tire Exhibition and Conference. Welcome to I-TEC's Ask the Expert. This is our live stream series featuring the latest technology for the tire and rubber industry. With Ask the Expert, this is your chance to learn from professionals who are addressing the current business environment and discussing latest developments. I-TEC has a number of Ask the Expert sessions scheduled each day at noon Eastern. The entire library of Ask the Expert sessions are available on the virtual event site, itecvirtual.crane.com. Now today, Ask the Expert will explore, are you ready for sustainable tire production? And our experts today are Ian Wilson, Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and Kevin Rolfe, Vice President of Sales Curing Presses at HF Group. Ian and Kevin will answer questions after their presentation. Now, if you have questions for Ian and Kevin, you can send them at any time to rpnevents@crane.com. Or if you're watching this live stream on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, send those questions through those social media platforms. With that, I'll turn things over to Ian Wilson and Kevin Rolfe at HF Group. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thanks, Brennan. Good afternoon, everybody. Sustainability is certainly a mega trend, and it's gaining more and more importance in the tire industry. Certainly in the last 5 years, and more recently in the last 12 months, it's certainly become a big topic for the tire industry to focus on. So looking at the CO2 footprint, overall emissions from the mixing and curing areas, the energy consumption, energy per output parameters from the production equipment, even medium consumption such as oil is also quite important. And next slide, please. So with this in mind, we would suggest a pit stop is needed to analyze the processes and to develop new strategies. The increasing complexity and performance specifications in today's tire industry and the demands have led to longer mixing and curing times, and certainly a shortfall in capacity. This then brings into question, can existing equipment be fully upgraded? So there's a big focus on the retrofit, not just in the mechanical side for the production equipment, but also in the field of automation. And really focusing on the sustainability topic. So for example, if you consider a retrofit, how can you improve or influence the productivity of the line and the quality aspect, but also reducing the CO2 footprint, and certainly a big focus on the emissions as mentioned already. Next slide, please. HF Group, just a short introduction, has a long, rich history. The group goes back to 1855. We are ranked number one by the European Rubber Journal in the industry today for tire and technical rubber equipment producing in different locations. We have two main divisions within the HF Group. The first mixing group has a number of facilities worldwide in NAFTA, in Europe, and also in Asia. And our tire technology group, located in Germany, in Hamburg, also has a number of facilities worldwide as well for manufacturing and service. We are considered to be a reliable partner. We very much focus on technology leadership in the market. So this is our strength. We have a big process division, which can offer further optimizations in combination with co-development with our customers and our market. So we are very much focused on customer orientation and future developments. We have this in mind to optimize further the relationships going forward in terms of adding value to our customers. Next slide, please. One example of retrofits is on the specific mixing line. We have innovative new rotor designs. The new intermeshing design, the PES7, is released this year. This will be a direct one-on-one retrofit replacement for the world standard existing PES5 rotor. Our new rotor design can be fully retrofittable, of course, to any existing mixer line. And it can not only optimize the energy per output parameter, but can also significantly influence the overall mixing time. And more importantly, also the quality demand as well. So the quality index, or raising the compound quality. Retrofits, we feel, will be a key focus in the tire industry. So there'll be less emphasis, certainly in the next year, on greenfield projects and expansions. So more on how we can increase efficiencies of existing mixing lines, so rather more brownfield expansions, and improving the overall performance of a line. If you look at the introduction of silica, of course, typically mixing and curing times are much longer now than before, so this has led to a further shortfall in capacity as well. And a rotor retrofit can address this issue. The PES7, as an example here, by comparison, has about 4% higher empty volume than the predecessor PES5. It has a 3 to 5% higher fill factor. The intake behavior is significantly improved, and this is always, let's say, a weaker point of an intermeshing machine when you compare this to a tangential mixer. So we optimize the rotor geometry to improve the intake, so the ram seating time is significantly faster. Not only does this lead to an increase in productivity, but it also has a significant influence on the compound quality. So for example, if you take a high viscosity TBR compound, while the ram is taking time to seat, you have a big variation in fill factor, and this leads to some inconsistency in the mixing properties. So a faster ram seating time will also increase the quality index of your compound. Also, the mixing time is much shorter, so we can reach the Mooney target in about 20 seconds less time. In addition to the PES7, there are the largest installed base of mixers worldwide are still tangential. The weak point of the tangential mixer in comparison to the intermeshing machine, of course, is the performance on silica, especially at high levels, very high silica loading levels. And so it's important to consider how to improve the performance of the tangential rotor. So we introduced here the ZZ8. This is a type of hybrid rotor, so it's non-intermeshing still, but it has a much bigger cooling surface area. So it addresses the surface area to volume ratio, which is always outstanding in the intermeshing machine. And what this allows you to do is consider an upgrade of an existing tangential mixer to improve the performance at a lower investment cost on high silica compounds. With the ZZ8, you would see, typically in comparison to other tangential rotors, about 6% increase in the empty volume, the free volume of the mixer. A wider fill factor range, which is also quite often a limitation on tangential mixers. So this can be in the region of 70 to 80%. Of course, it's compound dependent, depending on the viscosity, the hardness, and so on. The fill factor is increased on average by about 5%, and the Mooney can be achieved at the same, at the increased fill factor. And of course, more importantly, it's fully exchangeable with ZZ2, ZZ4 rotors, and all other types of tangential rotors. So making it rather interesting in terms of the overall investment cost. Next slide, please. In addition to this, as the retrofits will be a key focus, as mentioned, and more focus on brownfield, installations bring further challenges. So we introduced to this project for your consideration a 3D digital scan. A mixing room analysis can look at the current situation, and then you can look at alternatives in terms of different mixer sizes, different types of mixer configurations, and you can calculate the overall mixing cost in euro cent per kilogram. And the digital 3D scan of an existing mixing room enables you to have more exact planning if the customer plans to replace an entire line in an existing facility. And it also provides a rather risk-free data collection, a digital data collection, because sometimes drawings of older facilities can be missing or inaccurate. From the 3D scan, we can create CAD drawings from the 3D point model, the cloud model, and then full 3D visualizations of the mixing line can be developed. We can look at interferences. So for example, if we're replacing only part of the line, if you're taking out a strip cutter or a polymer weigh scale conveyor, you can take out the existing equipment, drop in the new equipment, and you can look at the exact machine positions, and the routing also of piping and cabling trays can be precisely determined with the digital model. There are always constraints with a brownfield project, but you can use the scan to look at the pros and cons of different configurations. So you can look at different cost options as well, excuse me. A lower cost option, which could be a simple retrofit, if it's, for example, just a rotor exchange. Or you can look at a higher cost option where you could, for example, replace the entire line with a full intermeshing line. And that could be more interesting for the overall amortization or the return on investment calculation. Next slide, please. Automation is certainly the key to unlocking the potential of any upgraded mixing room, especially if you take into consideration Industry 4 and the digital revolution. For everything from intelligent controllers, such as RAM position control, and also batch temperature control, which is especially useful when processing high silica compounds, to intralogistics, which are running demand-driven production. The highest possible automation of a mixing line also, of course, helps to reduce the compounding costs, but more importantly, also increases or helps to increase the quality index and mixing line availability. So you can look overall at your OEE factor, the overall equipment efficiency factor, and you can increase this overall line availability with our good automation solution. Ultimately, more automation leads to less labor, of course, to operate a mixing room, which leads to a further cost reduction. Certainly in the future, we feel we will witness for sure more manless mixing room operations, and this is a concept that HF Mixing Group is extremely focused on right now. Next slide, please.
Okay, so then I will take over from here. To the other end of the factory, the curing department. We understand from HF side, aside from greenfield and brownfield projects, which we for sure specialize in, especially with our large capacity, production capacity, able to fulfill those requirements, that the replacement market is equally important market. Situation there is, of course, your trenches are not expanding. They're remaining the same size as they were yesterday, and but also the market is requiring larger tire sizes. So you're looking to replace your old presses, 43, 45 inches, for example, with larger presses. And this is what we've been focusing on, discussing with our customers in past projects, is looking for various solutions depending on the existing space that's given in your plants. Therefore, you see just 2 or 3 pictures to the right side, looking at the various solutions. We understand that there's many applications. One is specifically pitless or with a pit or a shelf. We have to understand that we have to fit to those applications, and therefore want to do that in the most cost-effective manner possible. So one of the ways, of course, is to eliminate the overall cost. For example, with no platform requirement over the main conveyor, takeaway conveyor for the press, by utilizing a single exit conveyor solution, so that we could have, for example, cabinets and the HPU on the floor next to the press. So, of course, equally important in this in the focus is access, easy access for maintenance and operation. So especially in pitless applications. And as well, we have to meet the local safety requirements around the world. There we have a vast experience. And as well, looking to the latest trends is as well for automatic loading solutions, where we have our experience primarily from the greenfield applications or some of the brownfield. We're able to implement or bring in automatic loading solutions where it fits in some of your plants. Next slide, please. Another replacement solution is related to the truck press. This is a new truck press that we've just developed in the last year and a half, and have implemented into the market in many areas. This is also a space-saving opportunity. We're able to put this press into an angled position for a very narrow solution down to 4 meters wide, or up to 4.5 or even wider, depending on the requirements of the plant. As you'll see, this is also having a hood that's coming over the mold. We have the insulation on the inside of the hood, so high focus on energy consumption for the press, as well as operational efficiency. The squeeze force is everything with 100 bar or less requirement, so we don't have energy or hydraulic boosters required. The modular approach that we have for this design allows us to meet your individual requirements. And as we said before, the safety and ease of maintenance is a high importance for us. So we're making sure that we're meeting your specification for each individual project. As well, for the PLC, the main PLC brands we have full experience with, so we're adapting those as well as per your local requirements. And yeah, I think it's a very interesting new design here to discuss with you as well, to see for future projects. So next slide, please. So this was a very short snapshot in now 17 minutes from mixing side and from the curing side, talking about how we can assist you for a sustainable tire production going forward. I would say from both Ian and my side, we appreciate all of your attention so far today. We want to leave time for questions, but we very much look forward to discussing with you or meeting with you either in the next 13 minutes, especially afterwards. Feel free to reach out to us. They'll be coming our contact information later on in the presentation, and then we can discuss your individual needs accordingly. So.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's dive into some questions. Great job, Ian and Kevin. As a reminder, if you want to submit a question, you can submit them several different ways, through email at rpnevents@crane.com, or if you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, send your questions through those platforms. All right, fellas. First question is very simple. How are you managing the current situation? We can't go a day or a moment in business without, realizing we are in a pandemic COVID-19 world. How are you managing the situation right now?
Yeah, it's been for us. It's been a challenging time. However, we were very fortunate that we were already with Microsoft 365. We had all of our people updated due to a new headquarters that we've just opened here in Hamburg, so that we had all the newest technologies. And we can say maybe we were a bit lucky, but fortunately, we've been pretty seamless to be able to maintain the contact with our customers. For a long time, we were from home office, but we are now back in operation at our headquarters here in Hamburg. So I think we can discuss this topic a long time, but the main factor is that we have the technology basically to stay in touch with our customers, and especially our engineers are able to design whether they're at home or if they're working here at the office. So. Yeah,
no, that makes a lot of sense. Ian, anything to add to that?
No, basically ditto to what Kevin just mentioned. I mean, HF Mixing Group was part of the group. That same thing, we'd adopted 365, so we were already well versed in Microsoft Teams and communication, because we're already a global organization with locations in NAFTA region and also in Asia. So we're basically communicating at all hours throughout the week. And this really proved invaluable for us. So the home office situation, we accommodated rather well and minimum disruption. We also had executed a certain breathing capacity to cope with a market fluctuation, which meant we were well prepared for this situation. Hopefully it will not last too long though, because I think next year will bring even more challenges. So we are confident that the market is starting to pick up, but I think it will still take some time to fully recover back to pre-COVID situation.
Yeah, no doubt. So you both mentioned the customers, which of course is paramount in to a business like yourselves. Besides the Microsoft Teams, is there any other ways you're supporting your customers, whether that's through virtual environments or perhaps maybe in certain situations going out to their sites if everyone is able to travel?
Yeah, we have some travel, although it be definitely restricted. Again, we're rather fortunate that we have service stations located throughout the globe. So we have 2 service organizations in North America. We have a big facility in Bangalore in India, another service facility in Thailand, also one in Qingdao in China. And this helped us tremendously throughout the pandemic. So we were still able to provide local support where travel restrictions were in place from our OEM service centers in Europe. In addition to that, we also had the capability for remote access to installation startup support. So for example, with the MGuard router in all of our automation systems, we were able to get access to support our customers with commissioning work undertaken to meet the required startup production dates as well, if we were not able to specifically visit them in person.
Okay. Kevin, I wanted to go back to your presentation. You talked specifically about a need for larger tires. I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit. What's driving the need for larger tires and therefore replacing these older presses that you talked about?
That's primarily, the market, everyone, the SUVs, the light trucks, this market, this is where the market has been driven over the last years. So that's pretty much the driven, I would say market driven. Simple answer, short answer.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe I could just expand on that a little bit, because certainly for electric vehicles, the rim sizes are increasing also. Yeah. So in the premium tire sector, of course, we're going over 18-inch and above, and the tread dimensions are changing significantly because of e-vehicles, and the quota of e-vehicles is increasing. Even throughout the pandemic, this has continued to go up, and legislation and tariffs imposed on not meeting these quotas will further be enforced over the upcoming years. So with the increase in tire sizes is basically being driven by electric vehicle production as well. So to reduce the rolling resistance is needed by a further 30% as a result of the instantaneous acceleration ramp. So the torque requirement coming from an electric vehicle, but also the dynamic load capability as well. The electric vehicles are, of course, significantly more heavier due to the fuel cell in comparison to a combustion engine. And this brings with it much faster tire wear as well. So the dimensions of the tire are basically going larger in diameter and more skinnier. So the tread dimension is changing as well to further reduce the rolling resistance to combat that increase in wear.
That's interesting. Yeah, because when I think of the SUV and the tire and the truck market, I think us here in the States, but yeah, electric vehicles, seeing that explosion everywhere, or soon will be. So what is the cycle time for the truck press? Short and sweet there.
Yeah, this ultimately depends a bit on the tire size, but in principle, we're focusing on around 2 minutes for the dry cycle. So we're talking about without the process side from the customer, but the items that we can control from press open, press close, minus those process cycles, and 2 minutes time in general. but a bit longer for, let's say, for a larger tire size. But so.
So, okay, Ian, here's a question for you. You mentioned retrofits and brownfields as opposed to greenfields would be more on trend going forward. Can you talk a little bit more as why that might be the case?
If you think about the capacity situation and the overall restrictions now, excuse me, enforced, people will look very closely at the overall investment possibilities. So for sure there will be greenfield projects, but we see much less. There's been a significant number of greenfield expansions over the past 10 years. And we see this definitely slowing down. It's a general trend in the industry. This was already starting to happen before the pandemic, frankly speaking, because the automotive industry was already reducing. And the indicators show that it will plateau out at its lowest level for quite some time in 2020, and then start to resume just a modest growth going forward. So I think that the understanding was greenfield opportunities will certainly be fewer in the next few years than let's say the last 5 years. And so the focus or attention goes more than onto the retrofit side. So if it's possible to increase the efficiency of an existing mixing line with a brownfield retrofit project, this has to be a consideration, especially if you look at the more complex formulations. As I mentioned, many customers are faced with a big reduction in capacity because of the additional mixing times needed for the more complex recipes, especially with the high silica. So to retrofit an existing line to increase the productivity can be a more economical method of increasing your overall efficiency.
All right, well, we are getting lots of questions in. Thank you so much to our viewers out there for sending them in, and keep doing so. Here's an emailed question. What is the difference between NST and the ZZ8 or the ZZ8?
That's a very good question. The NST is synchronous technology, the new synchronous technology, and that has wing function technology. So it has 2 long wings, each at a different helix angle. One helix angle is very strong, so it promotes radial mixing. So this is basically for distributive flow or distributive mixing, so it's an enforced flow. The other wing has a very shallow helix angle, so it's a dispersive high shear wing. So basically you get a good flow of material and you get a high shear. The ZZ8 is an open wing construction. Both wings have a strong helix angle, so it's very much focused on enforced flow and distributive mixing, so very typically used in final mixing applications or technical rubber applications.
Okay. Here's another question through email sent to rpnevents@trane.com. Is there any work being done to improve additional temperature measurement technology?
Yeah, we are looking at always working on the temperature sensors. So we spend a lot of time looking at the material that is utilized to make sure that a certain conductivity gives the best result. Of course, the wall thickness of the sensor is also quite critical as well, but this kind of then could reduce the overall wear or lifetime of the probe if the wall thickness is too thin, but then you need that for a good response. So we have developed quite strongly in the sensor technology with a 2-piece design, with a rather special coating to give a certain conductivity and wear production. And furthermore, we are also focusing on now 3D printing our sensors, which gives us new possibilities for further optimum shapes to give further improvement in the response time as well.
All right. Kevin, here's one for you. Kevin mentioned energy efficiency in replacing truck tire curing presses. How important is energy saving to customers? How significant can those savings be?
Well, we think that I mean, the savings, if you're looking at the old curing presses in the factory, then you have a very significant savings. First of all, as you saw quickly on the slide, we're moving the hood up and down And as I mentioned, the cycle time is approximately 2 minutes. So we're maintaining a lot of the heat inside the mold. We're not losing the heat, as opposed to the older press designs that are tilting back and staying open for a much longer time. So you're definitely losing a lot of energy in this cycle. So the number can vary from application to application, but you're for sure looking at probably a savings of at least, let's say, 300%. So that in the comparison from the old to the new.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
But this is something that has to be analyzed on individual basis. But for sure, we see that as one of the main drivers, especially with the insulation factor that we have also in the machine. Well,
yeah, and 300%. That's going to get anybody's attention. I know that's a general percentage, but all right, gentlemen, we're running out of time here, so we have one last question here that we'll get to. How can we reduce the number of mixing stages?
Simple. Install a tandem mixing line. If you look at typically mixing line stages, on average, they're around about 2.5. Of course, it can be much more in certain tire applications, but you easily reduce, on average, 1.6, or let's say, if you look at in the tire industry and you have mixing stages in the region of 3 to 4 stages, you can reduce by 1.6 stages with adapting tandem technology.
All right. Well, wonderful, gentlemen. Any final thoughts for our viewers out there before we end this live stream?
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out in these challenging times, and that appreciate at least the opportunity to ITEC, and that we were able to maintain this some presence during these challenging times. So at least thanks back to you, and thanks to everyone for joining tonight.
Yep, same. Thank you to ITEC for the opportunity, and thanks for those that participated too.
Well, Ian and Kevin, thank you both for sharing your insights today. If you want to reach out to either of these gentlemen or with additional questions, I know they'd be happy to hear from you. Use the email addresses you are seeing on your screen right now. They can offer all kinds of expertise from HF Group. Again, my thanks to our experts, Ian Wilson and Kevin Rolfe at HF. My thanks to you for joining us today for ITEC's Ask the Expert. For more sessions like this, visit itechvirtual.crane.com. I'm Brennan Lafferty. Thanks for watching ITEC's Ask the Expert, organized by Rubber and Plastics News. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for a parting message from HF Group.
Are you ready for sustainable tire production? Difficult times require an analysis of processes and consequently a development of new strategies, so you can get back into action. HF, sent for future demands in tire production. Join us for ITEC 2020 Virtual Edition on September 10th, 12 p.m.